Welcome to another Wisdom podcast with Sonja Ängeslevä. She is CEO and co-founder at Phantom GameLabs. So we're going to talk about gaming, going to talk about Zynga, we're going to talk about everything in between. Sonja, I'm glad to have you. Can you introduce yourself and tell us a bit more about Phantom GameLabs?
Cool. Yeah, thanks for having me, Charles. So Phantom GameLabs is a mid-core mobile-first game development studio. So we are focusing on deeper experiences and very much focusing also on social, ways for players to collaborate, to experience and share the experiences together. So that's what we are about to build. We are focusing on looter-shooter, to be more specific. And we come from basically a role-playing shooter game, building different game environments. We have been in the industry for close to 20 years. So yeah, you already mentioned Zynga, so I've been responsible for one of their iconic IPs, FarmVille. I've been helping to build the mega hit Empires and Puzzles. I started my career from the R&D side, so I've also built tools, so I have quite a holistic view on the world, and now I'm super happy to work with my team at Phantom to create the next big thing, which is going to be mobile first looter shooter.
Nice. Tell me about your background. How did you first get into games, and what started your love stories with video games?
Yeah, good question. So I studied engineering, and I had a passion to different crafting and arts, but I knew that, I would never be an artist, as I'm not that type of a person, and I'm not an engineer because I want to combine different things together. But I started building different prototypes and basically like future for facing innovations for different companies. So I was very heavily into, and I'm still very passionate into R&D, because that basically opens the like a lot of opportunities, a lot of things you can tackle that are still unknown, and you can basically craft and figure out what the future will be. But that's where I started. I started engineering, R&D. Then I realized that I want to be closer to consumers. And I think an ideal way to combine art and engineering is games. So I thought that, okay, this is actually a fantastic way to reach like millions of people worldwide and combine like the technical expertise and the sort of the artistic or design thinking together. But yeah, that's the long story short.
Must be pretty fun. So I grew up in Montreal. Montreal is known for like its gaming studios. Activision, Prince of Persia was produced there, and a bunch of super cool games. So I was a gamer when I grew up. I first started with Diablo 2 at like 6 years old. Then my first Nintendo 64 at like 5, playing James Bond at Nightfire, I believe it was called, or GoldenEye, I forgot. From there, I became really good at World of Warcraft. I was the number one torrent hunt, the number one in my server in PvP. And then I moved to Call of Duty, which was my in-between therapy, right? Because World of Warcraft was like a solid 50 hours a week. Call of Duty was probably like 15. And often when I look back at this younger career of mine, I think I view it as a rite of passage, because I didn't have anything else, right? School wasn't for me. The educational system wasn't for me. And I hadn't discovered entrepreneurship yet, which was, I think, the real rite of passage in my life. But I often wish that I would have spent my time doing more productive stuff during that time. But I also know that I learned team cooperation skills. I learned my English in World of Warcraft. I learned how to be a businessman, because I would work to get like legendary items and sell them at the auction house afterwards. So what skills can you learn with video games, and when does it become too much and some kind of hurdle for your personal life, aka like me playing 50 hours a week and not having any social life and putting everything aside.
Yeah, I think you already mentioned like a few of the very like common learnings from games. So many have, you know, really excelled in English just because of, you know, they have to collaborate and, you know, read and talk with other players. But I also think that it's at least I personally feel that it's also a way to, you know, help to sort of in a small scale to, you know, go with the prioritization and, you know, thinking what actually like I have, you know, the big goal and a lot of like maybe optional smaller goals. I need to figure out like what would be an ideal way for me to get to the big goal. And there is not always a one way. So I think that's also a good sort of like a to practice that type of like very useful skills in a you know safe environment, as you know, basically, you know, nothing happens within a game world, so you are basically safe. Like your game character might not do well, but but you know you will, you know, get no harm from that. But yeah, and you know, collaboration, it's also I sort of, you know, patience to be with others, as people are very different and they also approach to things differently. So I think it's nice that in World of Warcraft you actually have like different roles, so you need to also, you know, take a role in the team and everyone is relying on you. So I think that's also a good way to learn sort of like, you know, your part in the, you know, society or different communities. So yeah.
The future that I often imagine is Ready Player One, often like at least like a good part of the population, let's call it 50 to 60 to even 70%, being hooked in an alternate reality. The helmet is quite it's not imaginative, the helmet, because I don't think they'll be there for a while. I mean, Apple Vision Pro is quite amazing, but I think it will evolve to AR quite quickly, and I will be in that artificial world as well. I will be using these glasses or these contact lenses that do enhance my reality. But what do you think about the scenario of which like a bunch of folks are constantly hooked on serotonin, whether it's playing video games or watching porn the whole day? Do you think this could actually happen, knowing the brain and knowing how good UX people, for example, that I've spoke with a product guy at Zynga, and he was like, yeah, we're just hooking people up, and that I wasn't feeling too good about that. Do you feel that this could be a potential future, or would the government intervene before? Because there's also the fact that these people that are hooked on that, some of them, I mean, it makes them happy, right? And if they're not like harming society and not doing any harm while like being in their own world, so be it. But what do you think about this future? Do you think it could happen, and what would be the ethical and or legal implication of that?
So in Japan, there is already this phenomenon of otakus. And otaku is basically a person who is living through different like virtual worlds. So it doesn't necessarily be in this like real community or real life, but all or majority of interaction happens through different devices. So of course, yeah, that's like marginal case, but just trying to say that, yeah, it's already basically happening and some people live that type of lifestyle. I don't think it's about any like, you know, sort of political decision that will change the case. Like people live as they wish, and now with more and more tools and different, like for example, virtual pals or girlfriends or boyfriends or friends or communities, it just provides the variety that some prefer more than what's the old school or existing current way of being in the community. And how I feel about it, I think always the richness in life comes from diversity. So yeah, so I'm an avid swimmer. I really love swimming. I do it a lot. I run my company. I do investments. I do a lot of, art, even though, I said, I will never be an artist, but I really love, and collecting art and creating that. And I do hiking and whatnot. So like as much as possible, writing books, you name it. So I think, that's for me, that's richness. But I also understand that for some people, the richness actually comes from the value from, virtual, or even like sort of, having collaboration or some like conversation with people that are not even real.
Right. I think there could be some value in doing that. If I would picture myself with these AR glasses, I think it would have to be linked to this capitalist system, at least on the short term. So for me to produce money, but also, to get more information about folks, what is their cortisol rate? What is their heartbeat? What are they going through in their lives? I will have more empathy if I do, and I won't mess with them if they're having a bad day. I'd love to learn these things, or how can I put a smile on their face, make them laugh. That would be a beautiful society. It wouldn't be dystopian, in my opinion. Do you find that, because I'm an ultra athlete, I crunched a 30K this weekend for my training for my upcoming Spartan Ultra, and I just have music most of the time, sometimes audiobook. But do you find that when you're swimming, I recently did a 10-kilometer swim, do you find that having that silence and being with yourself, do you get like multiple insights while you're there alone by yourself, as someone that is constantly on technology and in code and very cerebral?
Well, yeah, definitely. Yes, that's how I feel. Actually, I do both. I listen to, podcasts and music and everything when I swim. So I have sort of waterproof headphones, but I also sometimes just like, enjoy just being by myself. I don't have anyone, with me, especially in the morning when I like outdoor swimming. So when it's like beautiful morning, quite quiet, not that too many people in the pool. It's just like, you are in the flow, you are in the sort of very relaxed mood. And I think that actually like brings up a lot of things that, just like surface somewhere down there, but you just can't like figure out like, like solutions to some of the issues or problems that you are thinking, for example, related to the game we build. And suddenly I'm like, hey, but actually, why didn't I think of that? So I think it's, again, to expose yourself to different situations. And it's easy to go to, follow the routines and to always do things similarly. But I would say that also, if you allow yourself to, take those, steps to a bit different direction or unknown, that might actually help at some point.
And these lakes that you're mentioning is during summer, right? Because you're in Helsinki, and I guess during winter it can get very cold, unless if you're Wim Hof.
No, I do also winter swimming. So
in the cold, like straight up.
Yes.
How long do you last in a frozen lake? Like 15 minutes or?
So it depends, what I'm wearing. But if I'm in a swimsuit, it's I don't know. And by the way, the sea or lake is also frozen, so there is not a lot of space. So you just have to go around. But yeah, I would say maybe 10 minutes is fine. It's like 4 degrees.
Do you have gloves and
Yes.
like, okay, because
with a
gloves wetsuit, it's very cold.
Yeah, gloves are a must, but like, wetsuit not necessarily. It depends on how long are you going to survive.
Nice. Well, I absolutely need to try that. I'm not sure how long I last. Well, I mean, in an ice bath, you're just sitting and meditating, so that is somewhat easy. Plus, you warm the water up, because you stay in the same spot. When you swim, it's constantly cold water coming at you, plus the breathing, plus the water hitting your face and triggering the vagus nerve, and generating a bit of cortisol in there. So I'd love to see how my body would actually react to that. But yeah, it's funny, right? Because when I do sports, I have my pain reservoir that needs to go down. That's like all the anger that I accumulated from dealing with life and business and a bunch of peoples and a bunch of stimuli. But there's also another reservoir, which is the insights or the data reservoir, which is like super duper full. I talk with 10 to 15 CEOs a day. And I'm not sure the analogy here. Does it need to go down because it's just full? Is it like my cache clearing itself? Because I do get a bunch of these insights. I used to do drawing as well. I stopped that, but that was, I think, more for the relaxing piece of it. Do you feel that as the CEO of a business, you've got your cortisol under control nowadays and you're calm, or do you still get hit by stress waves every now and then?
No, I'm actually very mindful about the managing the stress and making sure that I'm on top of like things and so of course, like in some cases there might be some stressful situations, but yeah, I find it very, very important to make sure that there's a good balance in life. So I have like loads of other things besides just like crunching the company, and also making sure that when there are stressful situations, there usually are always someone to support or to share ideas, and then go over from that. But yeah, I'll try to avoid that stress and different over bowling as much as possible.
Right. And you guys are still fairly small, you're like 7, as I can see on LinkedIn, maybe a tad more. Do you plan on staying that side? What do you think the role of AI will be in the numbers of employees? Do you feel that your employees are using AIs to be more productive, or do you think you'll skyrocket the numbers of employees to follow the growth trends?
So I think the future will be very AI reliant. So we are already using like GitHub Copilot and ChatGPT Plus for like helping with like scripting or writing queries. So that very much like streamlines and also helps with the logic. So of course, you need to think it through as well, but it really like speeds up things when you use different tools. And also I know many companies use different visualization tools for concepting or testing different marketing ideas. So I think that's just like helps us to basically compete with companies that are massive, in scale. Like many Chinese game studios are they are growing by number, whereas we do not have the same luxury as we are, we are located in Finland. We don't really have like millions and millions of people. We only have like 5.5 million living in the whole country. So it will be one type of a challenge to scale the team. So we feel that, for companies like Phantom GameLabs, it's a massive value that we can utilize different AI tools that will help the work. So we don't think that, AI will generate games or graphics or something like that, but we truly believe that AI will help with personalization. So basically the experience that we create, a craft, can be different for you than it is for me, because of like the way we utilize AI to understand your behavior within the game and mine, and also try to support the best way possible to enrich your experience or improve my experience. But I think so there will be many things, and I think like pipeline or process wise, AI will be like aid in different parts that will either speed up some development phases or then support, like GitHub Copilot is a great example. Like of course we need a programmer, but programmer benefits from different tools.
Right. And just for folks to understand the structure of the company, so there's just the CEO, so you make stuff happen in a couple of lines. Zuzana is in charge of art, so I guess the graphics, right? And
Yes, graphics.
Jane or Honey, depending on how you pronounce it, creative director, so the story part and the full, yeah, characters and all of that, right?
Yeah, the design, like, what's the gameplay experience will be like.
Right. What's your time to market deployment and how much budget do you allocate per game and what's the ROI on these games?
Okay, that's a number of questions. Time to market depends on, it always depends on the velocity of the team or the size of the team as well as company. Like if I would be working at Zynga, it would be totally different. But now that I'm running a startup, it means that it's from basically 0 to launch is depending on the game from 3 to 6 months. So, and also when trying to optimize the return of investment, of course, that's also like way shorter time frame compared to the large studios. So if for us it's like some months, in larger companies it can be a few years even.
Right. And you deploy Android first, I guess?
Yeah, so it seems so. We are basically ready to go with both platforms, but we'll see what makes them makes the most sense at this point. The nice thing about startup and small studio is that we can be very lean. So currently, yes, we think that we'll go Android first, but yeah, if it makes sense, we are also of course capable of doing both mobile platforms at the same time. We'll see. Right. Next year, early next year.
Have you deployed the game yet? What has been the outcome?
So we have been testing the previous game, but not the current one. So the first test will be in November, so we still have a bit of time to wait. Hoping for the best, of course.
Are you nervous? Because you've worked on that for quite a while, you know? But I guess you've been through these cycles before at Zynga and all these companies, so you know that they take a while, but who knows? It could be a massive flop, and you've had a seed so far. So I guess if that's the case, you'd go for another funding round and try again and again and again until you get like a mega hit, no?
Yeah, of course, yeah. But I also have high hopes to my team. I think I have, the dream team. I'm sure many CEOs say that, but based on I work with a lot of people over the years, and I think like the combination we have is really good. Like we are very different, but we have the combination of experiences and sort of skill set is something, and also the Janne's like sort of design innovation, or sort of the way he lives and breathes design. I think that's very unique. So, but yes, it's very competitive market. Of course, we'll try the best. We have a lot of learnings in our back pocket, so to utilize. But no one can say for sure like how things go. But yeah, we are data driven, numbers driven. Numbers will tell, hopefully sooner than later.
So you have the stats on shoot and loot, but one of my favorite, and I mean, yeah, I've retired since then, but it was Nazi zombies in Call of Duty. That one was so good. You would survive these rounds, you would shoot them, you would loot whatever they dropped. Sometimes it was an insta kill, sometimes it was 2x rewards point. What have been your favorite shoot and loot model, and how are you trying to reproduce that with the next game you're deploying?
Okay, that's a tricky question. My favorite like looter shooter is Destiny, but Destiny is a big screen game, and it's very quite far from a mobile title. So yeah. So I think, yeah, if anything that even comes closer, I would say that, yeah, like Diablo Immortal is currently it's not a looter shooter, but it's like action role-playing game. It has a lot of, that, drives people to collect stuff and sort of basically face the enemies. So it has the loot and the shoot loops in a way. Of course, it also has quite a lot of exploration, but I think, there are quite a lot of interesting learnings from a game like that. But yeah, it's
Diablo's great.
yeah.
That was the last that I played on my Switch before I sold it recently. Yeah, there was a Rocket League, which doesn't have anything to do with shoot and loot, but it's top game. Super Smash Bros. And yes, Diablo. Oh, and Pokemon. Pokemon was really fun. Yeah, Diablo is such a classic. It's so
Yes.
fun. The noise and the explosions and the leveling up, the looting gear, the team player is super fun as well. It's so easy to play also, right? It's like plug and play. It's really not hard to understand. So
That's what it should be.
and yet, like mobile games, it's like the end customers. Am I picturing the guy in a bus on the way to work or on the toilet playing? Like where and who plays these types of games? Last question.
Okay, so players are, everywhere around the globe. The biggest growth actually currently comes from Middle East, Africa, and Latin America. So for looter shooters, the obvious markets are US and then South Korea, Japan. South Korea is very strong in the role-playing scene, but we feel that we want to reach wider audience. So basically also try to find maybe from the Nazi zombies to broader types of enemies that would also appeal to like people at different age or gender, different geos or around the world. So they would actually find some contact point to the characters and the enemies or the world. But yeah, our goal definitely is to reach basically global markets. But I would say, yeah, the US, South Korea maybe are the usual suspects that will be leading.
Right. And these, I mean, you're sort of in the waiting industry, I would say, is one. So if they're waiting for an appointment, if they're waiting on the metro on their way to work, if they're on their dinner breaks, that's like when you need to get them. And also, well, some of them are totally hooked. Even while having breakfast, they would play these things, which is a bit sad, but also after work, they're lying on their couch or lying in bed and they want to chill. One reason why I gave up video games was that it would inject cortisol in my brain before to bed. Rocket League, I'm quite intense, okay? So like when I play these things, I'm competitive. Plus I have my brother that I'm gaming with. He gets angry with these things. And if we're losing, he's gonna say not so nice things on me, his teammate. Shout out to my brother, see if he listens to that. How can you put like bedtime hours, just like Apple did with his phone? Can you like put reminders like, look, it's bedtime, you maybe shouldn't play too much, or make the game not too stressful because it might generate adrenaline or cortisol in their brain before to sleep? Have you thought about these limitations, or let's call it helpful reminders?
Yeah, I've actually also used some of like notifications or ways of building the cycles in the game that would drive people not to basically repeatedly or before going to bed actually just dive into the game world. With the current development we are developing, one of the like big trends in games is cross-platform. So actually, I think one way to make the experience maybe even better is to be able to continue the like mobile experience on for example, on a TV screen, where the setup and also this kind of a habit building is already different. But yeah, so again, we can't do anything, for people except just like, sort of, add reminders or sort of, change the rhythm or sort of activities when something happens in the game. So those type of things we can do. And with the hyper personalization with AI, we can also learn more about the player's behavior and also like provide targeted messages that wasn't possible before on the level that it is now. So I would say, yeah, definitely a challenging topic. I don't have like a silver bullet how things are to be improved, but I also feel that, yeah, it's also our responsibility to find and experiment with ways that would eventually increase like the total well-being of an individual.
Well, Sonja, thank you for the insights you provided today. Where can people find out more about you?
So LinkedIn is easy. I'm very approachable. So if we want to talk about games or otakus or well-being or swimming, like just hit a message, and I would be love to continue the discussion.
Right. And the website is phantomgamelabs.com. I am Charles Cormier, your host of CEO Wisdom Podcast.com. That was Sonja.